Thank you, Eitan. Thank you, Rabbi Ruskay. Thank you to my family for being here. One day, Rav Nachman, widely regarded as the most gifted judge of his generation, was presented with a baffling torts case. The Talmud doesn't describe the scene, but I like to imagine it vividly. Rav Nachman furrowed his brow, paused, took in the tangled web of legal details, and then suddenly slammed his hand on the table and declared, patur, exempt. The case Rav Nachman received is actually too convoluted to summarize for our purposes right now, maybe after a l'chaim. But suffice it to say, it involved a jointly owned ox that was stolen and a partial confession by the thief in question. Most crucial, though, is the bottom line. Rav Nachman ruled leniently. The thief of the ox must repay what they stole, but no more. No additional punitive fine. And because this is the Talmud, after all, Rav Nachman didn't merely issue a ruling. He defended it brilliantly, successfully neutralizing counterarguments from left and right with impressive precision and skill. The sugya unfolds, the debate runs its course, and the day finally comes to an end. Rav Nachman goes to sleep. The next morning, however, he wakes up and announces something shocking. Chayav, liable, not exempt, not the leniency he previously issued. And then he adds a cryptic explanation. The reason I ruled otherwise yesterday is because I did not eat the flesh of an ox. De la achli bisra tetora. This is astonishing. Talmudic judges do not typically sleep on a case and reverse themselves the next day. And the explanation is even stranger. What does it mean that he did not eat the flesh of an ox? How could this possibly affect a legal ruling? What does this have to do with judgment, with justice, or with halacha? To understand what Rav Nachman is really saying, we need to look all the way back to this week's parsha, Parshat Yitro. After the exodus from Egypt, Moshe is exhausted by judging all the cases that people bring before him. Moshe's father-in-law, Yitro, encourages Moshe to set up a judicial system so it doesn't all fall upon him. And Yitro names for Moshe several desired qualities to look for in a judge, but I want to focus on just one. According to Yitro, judges should be anshe emet, people of truth. Now, Rav Nachman is a successor both of the judicial system that Moshe sets up with Yitro's encouragement and of its stated values. So what does this demand for judges to be anshe emet, people of truth, look like when filtered through the world of Rav Nachman? At the most basic level, Rav Nachman exemplifies the ish emet, the person of truth, because of his intellectual integrity. Despite arguing forcefully for a position one day, he is able on the next to stand up publicly and admit that he was wrong. That capacity to reverse oneself without defensiveness or embarrassment is a profound form of truthfulness. It represents a radical willingness to push ego aside in service of truth. It is exactly the quality Moshe must seek when appointing judges, exactly the quality Rav Nachman possesses in spades, and exactly the quality that, if cultivated more widely, would only make our world more responsive, more principled, and more just. But there's actually an even deeper dimension of truth here, and that's connected to that mysterious line I cited before. I did not eat the flesh of an ox. For starters, Rashi says that this is a figurative way of saying, I didn't study enough. Rashi must be detecting a pun in the Aramaic word for ox, which after all is Torah. Sound familiar? In other words, by saying I didn't eat the flesh of an ox, Rav Nachman is saying, I didn't really get the meat of this Torah. I misunderstood what these texts, these laws are really about. According to this interpretation, Rav Nachman didn't spend enough time poring over texts, sitting in the Beit Midrash, engaged in intensive, thoughtful study of halacha and tradition on this topic. This model of truth is deeply intellectual. Truth emerges from disciplined study, from the ability to reconstruct the wisdom of earlier generations, to hear their voices in full, in their language, their categories, their assumptions, their anxieties, their hopes. On this view, an ish emet is someone devoted to the relentless pursuit of truth through Talmud Torah itself. But there's another way of understanding this line, just as there's another way of understanding what it means to be an ish emet. I did not eat the flesh of an ox. Perhaps we can understand this sentence more literally. Far from being a metaphor, Rav Nachman quite simply just hadn't eaten beef, either recently or who knows, maybe ever. And there's the irony that here he is judging a complicated case of an ox being stolen, despite this glaring gap in his own personal experience. On this reading, the relevant truth is not textual, but experiential. Not the truth of sources, but the truth of metzias, of reality as it's lived. Recall that Rav Nachman's original ruling exempted the thief from paying a fine to the ox's owner. Perhaps, having never eaten beef himself, Rav Nachman failed to grasp just how difficult the loss of such an animal would have been. He could not fully access the pain of the victim, the person who was robbed. His earlier ruling was not incorrect because he misunderstood the law, but because he misunderstood the human stakes. According to this interpretation, an ish emet is not only someone faithful to texts, but someone faithful to people, someone capable of perceiving truth in human beings and in all the messy realities of their lives. The truth of texts and the truth of people, these don't have to be separate at all. In recent years, I've had the extraordinary blessing of getting to know and learn from and even come to love some friends and teachers both in these walls and beyond who've achieved a remarkable integration of these qualities, whose immersion in Torah has brought them in ever greater consonance with humanity, and whose attentiveness to people continually deepens and inspires their study. It's this creative, artful synthesis that attracted me to this world of Torah learning in the first place, that inspired me to build my own life within it. The Mishnah in Avot captures this integration. When it lists the qualities through which Torah is acquired, it doesn't stop with intellectual disciplines like the study of Mishnah or Tanakh. It insists alongside them on Shmiat HaOzen, the capacity to truly listen, Binat HaLev, understanding of the heart, and Ahavat HaBriot, love of humanity. These are not peripheral traits or ethical embellishments. Together they form a single, undifferentiated whole, the full human posture required for true Torah to take root. And still, there are moments when these two poles, textual truth and human truth, do diverge. One such moment appears in our parsha itself. The Netziv, Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin of the 19th century, suggests that when cases were initially brought before Moshe, he was able to issue rulings immediately, drawing on his prophetic mastery of the law. The law, as it were, was instantly available to him in all its stunning textual truth. But this arrangement, the Netziv argues, was not ideal for the people. At Yitro's urging, Moshe therefore appointed additional judges, individuals whose strength lay not primarily in legal mastery, but in their understanding of people. These judges were attuned to the human textures of each case, the relationships, the emotions, the unspoken dynamics. Where Moshe, through his unparalleled grasp of the law, embodied justice in its pure form, these judges were able to pursue outcomes that accounted for human reality, often steering cases away from totalizing verdicts of innocent and guilty and toward compromise and settlement. Together, Moshe and the network of judges created a judicial system that held both dimensions at once: fidelity to law and fidelity to people, justice and peace, the truths of divine and of human revelation. And it is precisely this bold new arrangement that serves as the prelude to Israel's receiving the Torah itself. To study Torah properly and to live it fully demands nothing less than the cultivation of a whole human personality in all its complexity committed to divine truth. It requires sensitivity to the grammars of language, of life, and of love, to the structures of argument and of power, to justice and to peace, to judgment and to compromise, to texts and to people. Chotamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu emet. The seal of the Holy One is truth. May we learn to recognize and honor the many arresting forms that divine truth takes. Please rise for Kaddish Rabbanan. Rabbi Hanania ben Akashia Omer Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu lezakot et Israel lefichach hirba lehem Torah u'mitzvot shene'amar Adonai chafetz l'man tzidko yagdil Torah v'yadir. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei b'chol beit Israel. B'gala u'v'zman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shmei ra'am vorach la'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudsha, brichu, le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, tamiran v'alma, v'yimru, amen. Al Israel v'al Rabbanan v'al Talmidehon, v'al kol Talmidei Talmidehon, v'al kol man de'askin ba'oraita diva atra hadain v'di v'chol atar v'atar, Yehelahon ulechon shlam arabachina v'chitza b'rachamin v'chayin arichin u'mezonan revicha u'forkanam min kadama v'uhon div shmaya v'imru amen. Yehei shlam araba min shemaya v'chayin tovim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Eshekah.